Salutations, my sweet summer child. Welcome to Rip Daddy's Storytime Hot Tub. I'm your trusted pool boy, Dave Makes Noises, and today we're asking the interwebs about the times that they've Insta-Quit, Part 1. It happened about 6 years ago. My wife and I had just met. I was looking for a new gaming group and she seemed interested in trying the game out. Found a local meetup and came across a group that was looking for 2 players. They seemed fine when we met at the meetup. We exchanged emails and then got the address where the game was held. When we pulled up to the house, we were immediately put off. The place was sketchy as hell. Unkempt lawn, in a neighborhood full of well-manicured landscaping, broken lawn furniture, no exterior lighting, but we'd driven for 40 minutes to get there, so we figured we'd at least give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe their landlord was supposed to do the external upkeep and had just not done that. I knock on the door. And wait, the door swings open and standing there is the manifestation of everything I worry about, our hobby. An unshaven, smelly, obese man in a 2 sizes too small black t-shirt with an anime girl of some variety on it. Judging by the fact that neither I nor my wife could identify it, it must have either been really niche or some kind of hyper-ecchi. He elevator-ized my wife, then gestured for us to enter. We get into the next room and we see the 2 normal people we'd met at the meetup. Okay, I think maybe Neckbeard McHentai is just the statistical outlier. We start rolling up our characters while we wait for the other players to show up. I help my wife roll up a human fighter, as it was her first game and she didn't want to play anything with complex rules. While she's making decisions, I roll up a half-elf bard. So far, so uneventful. The other 2 players show up. One is a woman in her early 40s who is the epitome of crazy cat lady, disheveled, smelling of urine and stale cigarettes. The other is a man, maybe 18, with a pedo stash and too much cologne. I try to remain unjudgmental, but it's getting really difficult. Turns out, Pedo Stash is the DM. He looks over our characters and starts giving my wife the 3rd degree about her choices. Why this feat? Why those skills? Why a human? She does her best to answer, but it all basically boiled down to, I want to hit things with a sword and maybe not die so fast. He scoffs, mutters something about role players under his breath, and begins looking over my character. Same questions. Why that feat? Why half-elf? Why a bard? I answer his questions and give him a little bit of my character's backstory. I'd purposefully left out town names since the DM had never said which world we were playing in, planning on filling them in after the fact. The game finally gets underway. Our characters are introduced and combat immediately breaks out as we're waylaid by bandits. I roll high on initiative and go first. I start my bardic music inspiring nonsense and then move to the back of the group. The DM stops me afterwards and says that my character's ability only works if I sing the whole time. Not just during my turn, not just for a few bars. The entire time bardic music is active. I start singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat in a moment of confusion. Neckbeard's Catfolk Ranger is up next. He rushes in and makes his attacks, rolls all 6 of them and misses on 24+. I remind him of bardic music and am promptly told it failed since I stopped singing. I roll my eyes and shut up. Bandit's turn. They immediately rush my wife's character and proceed to sunder her armor, all 8 or so of them. After her ringmail or whatever is reduced to so much as slag, she stands there, still unhurt, in her arming long johns or whatever. Wife's turn. She attacks one bandit and misses on a 25. She tries to flee, but is informed that she'll take opportunity attacks. Fine, she's mostly surrounded, that makes sense. The other players attack the bandits and miss. My turn. Start bardic music again, this time whistling. Maybe that will work. Neckbeard the Catfolk goes next, makes his 6 attacks again. Seriously, how the hell at level 2 in 3.5? Misses all of them. Bandit's turn. The DM gets this smirk on his face and starts describing how the first 4 of them sunder my wife's arming long johns, leaving her naked. I stop whistling. I look him dead in the eyes. He then begins to describe how they disarm her and hold her down. The largest of the bandits then proceeds to drop his pants and force himself on her. My wife is very uncomfortable at this point. I stand up, tell him he's the reason that our hobby gets a bad reputation, and try to leave. Neckbeard stands up as well and tries to tell me to sit back down. I told him to fuck off back to whatever forum he crawled out of, and we left. I reported them to the meetup admins and to the game store owner where the meetup was held. Needless to say, I never went back. So when I was 19, 20, I moved in with a friend who had a regular group. I had never played before and had no idea what D&D was about. He convinced me to come and join in on a game. They were just starting a new campaign, either 3rd edition or 3.5, with one of their regular players as a first-time DM. I rolled up a level 1 thiefy rogue, and I got pretty excited about the whole backstory and role-playing concept. So we start playing. DM sets the scene. It's night, and you're walking down a narrow path through a deep, misty swamp. To your right, you see lights in the distance that seem to be floating just above the water. What do you do? Just that. No context, no quest, just Swamp and lights. Regardless, I'm excited to learn how to play this really fun-sounding game, so I eagerly wait to see what the other more experienced players do in a situation like this. They do nothing. They sit and look awkwardly at each other. The DM prods them again. Again, awkward looks and nothing. Eventually, I get bored and decide to lead this light brigade, so I jump in the water. Now, back in the day, swimming was a skill, one in which I wasn't particularly trained, so I fail my role and begin drowning.
So Zansmo is drowning. What do the rest of you do?
Again, nobody says or does anything. I finally have to ask someone to save me. The fighter jumps into the water and fails to swim. He begins drowning. One by one, the rest of the party jumps into the water and drowns. 5 failed swim rolls, TPK after 5 minutes playtime. Okay, reset the game, pretend that didn't happen, start again. Exact same thing. Swamp, lights, awkward looks, me bored, jump in water, drown. 5 failed swim checks, whole party drowns. Again. Absurdity. DM decides that instead of having us restart, we wake up in an underground cavern saved by aquatic swamp elves. We continued the game. The plot was largely unmemorable, as evidenced by me not remembering it. But anyway, after a couple hours, we end up in a city, and everyone is bored. They're whining about wanting to fight more, so the poor exasperated DM says fine. Scraps his story and sticks us in a tournament arena, and we fight various no-name personality-less bad guys in a variety of environments. A couple fights in, I'm bored as shit. I want plot and intrigue, not rolling dice and doing math. So when the DM pulls me aside and tells me he's got something special planned for my character, I get excited. He tells me he wants me to turn on the party and attack one of the other players. Nowadays, I would see all the red flags, but little not-so-magnificent Zansmo was just excited. I figured he has a plan. The DM had my back in this. It'll be fun. So the next fight, halfway through, he gives me the nod and I turn and attack the fighter. Everybody stops. They all turn and look at me. Eager me is sitting there waiting to see what happens next. Waiting for the DM to say something. He doesn't. More awkward looks. The party then massacres my poor little rogue. Everyone's confused. The DM explains he asked me to do that, apologizes. They tell me I can roll up another character and continue. I decline and excuse myself, saying I'm tired. Later I tell my roommate I'm not overly interested in continuing to play. I didn't play again for 6 more years until I met a different group of friends who convinced me to try. I've been addicted ever since.
If you steal from me, I'm going to skin your character alive.
I'm not playing a thief. I don't have any of the thief skills other than hide and move developed. 1st edition advanced D&D.
Oh great, a useless thief.
Not a thief.
When you do your lockpicking, make sure you check for traps twice. The DM is a real bastard.
Look, I've said I'm not playing a thief twice now. Well, you're a rogue, so you have to do traps and locks, but if you pick any pockets at all, I'm going to have to help first player skin you because I'm the paladin and I'm awful good. Okay. Last time I'm saying this, I'm not playing a thief. I'm playing a rogue. I do the spy thing, not the stealing thing. DM walks in and here's just the last sentence. Oh, good. This party really needed a thief. I have a story about a guy who single-handedly frustrated the DM so much the entire game ended. He was in one of my classes at school, kind of a quiet guy who spoke in a bit of a monotone and always blasted through his schoolwork so he could get back to drawing pictures of cars, which he was actually pretty damn good at. He overheard my friends and I talking about D&D and expressed interest, so we invited him to fill our party out to around 4. We planned for Saturday night at my place. My dad was going to DM. As the new guy, he needed some of the classes and such explained to him, but he seemed excited about the idea of a monk. During our first skirmish with some goblins in the woods, he trades misses with one for 2 rounds, then takes the goblin spear for 2 damage before knocking the thing out. He proceeds to have a bit of a freakout. Despite our assurances that there is really no danger in his monk losing 2 of his 9 hit points, especially because we still have a fully loaded cleric, he decides to have his character morph into a complete coward. For the rest of the session, his character would only attack from the back of the party with his fucking sling. Wouldn't even move in to help when the wizard got charged. His defense of the strategy? The last time he went in like that, he got hurt. He wouldn't want to do that again. No amount of explaining that these characters are adventurers whose job it is to go into dangerous places would help. He just kept slinging those goddamn stones. His cowardice got the fighter flanked and ganked. We, the other 2 helpful characters, had to be pretty bold to get him back from negatives. By the time we've rescued/recovered the princess/MacGuffin, I don't even remember what we were after, and started back, I guess our disdain for this guy's playing style started to make him feel threatened. Only took, what, 2 to 3 hours? He starts going on about the weirdest stuff, how it's not fair the halfling character has a riding dog and he doesn't, no one else had mounts. How he actually did more damage overall than the cleric? Definitely not true. And how he should have dibs on the ring of protection we found because his AC was the lowest. My dad was getting fed up at this point and ended the game before the quest completing role-playing bit. I don't think this guy even noticed my dad's frustration. We're a pretty reserved family and he has a good DM poker face, but dad sent us to the front room while he cleaned up. Dude calls his mom to pick him up, and as soon as the phone flipped shut, he was back to complaining about the game and how the rules make no sense and we weren't giving him any chances to do cool stuff, and he resented that we stiffed him with a clearly lame class. At this point, one of my friends punched him in the face. Dad didn't approve, and everyone was sent home right away, but he didn't really seem surprised. He DM'd for my friends a few more times, but we never invited Dude around again. Was the punch a little over the top for someone who probably just didn't quite grasp the game? Yeah, for sure. Would I have done the same? Nah, I'd have just continued memorizing what he said so I could post it somewhere like here. Am I very glad to have seen it occur before my own eyes? Yes, very much so. Especially because despite this incident, Dude decided that he and I were good friends for the rest of high school and has shown up at my door once or twice. I don't really get that, Dude. Greetings again, brave adventurer. I trust you had a good soak in the creative juices of the D&D community at large. If you've ever Insta-Quit before, share your story in the comments below. If you've got another story you'd like to share with the community, please take a dip in our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. If you're all ready to towel off and get to adventuring, you may have some luck finding a party to play with on Mr. Ripper's Group Finder, a Discord server we've purpose-built to help people find a tabletop gaming group. I hope that this week you can make some time to let go of the stress and the tension that has built up over the last little while. If you love me and want to hang out some more, you can find me on my Twitch or in many other places on the internet. I'm Dave Makes Noises across the board. Thank you again for watching. Please sub for Nat 20s. Ring the bell for towel service. We're so glad you've joined us in the tub today, and we'll see you next time.